Yeah.
Welcome back to the Need a Guest podcast. My name is Angel Tuccy, where I have the thrill of introducing you to incredible people doing amazing things behind the scenes. And our next guest today is going to help you get your life back. Do you or know somebody who has been in chronic pain and just doesn't seem to have the answer? Well, we are interviewing Dr. Brad Montagne. He is a passionate caregiver with a deep tool chest of decades of research, studies, and clinical application of functional medicine in restoring health to those with chronic illness. And the thing with chronic illness these days, it's you or it's somebody you know, or it's lots of somebody's you know. It is not uncommon for him to be able to give people their life back that no other caregivers have been able to help. And that's a pretty bold promise. But once you hear what he has to say and hear about his experience, you're going to fall in love with him. His compassionate understanding comes from years of his own struggles with chronic illness and the Lord giving him the tools to not only help himself, but also to help others get free from the prison of ongoing sickness. This is so prevalent. This is so needed today. It is my incredible honor to be able to introduce Brad to you. He has been there, he cares, and he walks with you in the process. Brad, I'm so excited to have you here with us today.
Well, thanks for the invite. I appreciate it.
All right, so let's talk about this. Like, that's some pretty bold promises that you've been able to do things that nobody else has been able to. But before we dig into that, let's go back a little bit about your own experience with dealing with chronic illness and how that helped shape your approach to helping healing others.
Real simple. I was really young when my mind started. Here I am in the ER room in a hospital late at night, middle of the night, actually. No explanation of what's going on, no reason why it started, no reason on how to get rid of it. Just, we're going to do this. You'll be better. Go away. And I don't know how many times I came back, but that was the first time there. That is the common experience with everybody with chronic illness. Is they've been to the doctor, they're looking for answers, they don't get any, they're just told here, do this, and nothing changes.
And we do. We've heard that. We've heard that so many times, right? This symptom doesn't match up with whatever pill or prescription, right? That they think might be the answer to. It feels like a lot of guinea pig stuff. Like, well, let's try this, right? We'll try this and see if that works. But you walk away feeling like, is this all in my head? Have I just created this? Am I going nuts? And in the meantime, right, your quality of life just deteriorates, and there just doesn't seem to be a clear path to finding answers. Is that, was that what it was like for you?
Yeah, I'm 5 years old, and I'm looking at this going, there's something wrong here. And that led me to, I shortly thereafter, my oldest brother brought home strep throat. Everybody got antibiotics. I was full of fungal infections. We went off on a family vacation. The world spun around me. I wasn't spinning around, the world spun around me. Extremely coordinated, extremely athletic, with the world spinning around me. I was 24/7, 365 days a year. If I felt normal, it was like, woohoo. I haven't seen this in forever. And I learned to start taking care of myself at a young age, started cooking when I was 5. Because if I ate the way my family ate, I felt sicker than a dog, like I'm gonna puke my guts out and all
Wait a
that.
minute.
So
At that young of age, you recognize that what you were eating, if you ate the same thing that your family was eating, that you felt sick. Because
yeah,
that's a disconnect for, I think, for a lot of people, Brad, to put food, that connection with food together with how they're feeling.
yeah, we were, back in the age when Carnation Instant Breakfast came out. Mix that up, have a roll or something like that, and in minutes I'm ready to puke.
Oh.
It wasn't hard for me to connect the dots. Like, I feel sick. I got to do something different for breakfast. So I started cooking my own breakfast. No one else did. I did.
Wow.
And,
Wow.
and I'm 5 years old.
That's amazing that even to have like your parents to be that open about it. Because, I think a
Well,
lot of
I
us.
came from the one of the worst, most dysfunctional. homes in the world. I got 30 years of prison ministry. Every time I was in prison, they started complaining about their upbringing. I talked for 30 to 60 seconds about mine. It never failed for 30 years to shut down an entire prison.
Okay, okay,
We're
okay.
talking serious dysfunction.
Okay. So, but you had it like, where did that? Oh, so you, I mean, obviously feeling sick, like sometimes it's the mother of invention, necessity. Like I have to do something. At what point, because I think a lot of it we talked about that God gave you the tools to heal yourself. At what point did faith play into your healing journey? Was that as a young child or did that come later as an adult?
No, I grew up in the absolute pit of heathenism. And it was Lord got a hold of me in an interesting way because you talked earlier about closing down bars. I was closing down the bars with a buddy of mine. He called me up and go, "Hey, I'm gonna go skydiving tomorrow. You want to go with me?" And we started jumping out airplanes, still drunk from the night before. It didn't work. It just didn't work. And I had this revelation after doing that a few times that if I party afterwards, I'll make this work. And that brought me out of that whole scene. And the Lord got a hold of me and sobering up through all that. And he just totally changed the direction of my life. So that started around 19 years of age.
Wow. Wow. So just yesterday, right? Like you're just such a
Yeah.
young pup. All right.
Yeah.
So, Brad, can you just walk us through a little bit? Like, what does a typical healing journey look like for a patient that comes to you who's feeling hopeless or feeling like they've been misdiagnosed?
Okay. People think I cherry pick stuff. So I'm going to give you the worst kind of scenario because this is the kind of people that come to us.
Okay.
We had this young girl come to us. She was the middle teens, hadn't cycled for at least a year, failed to thrive. She'd been to every specialist you could possibly find in world-renowned clinics. No one could figure out what was wrong with her.
Hmm.
And that was her history.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
comes into us in a matter of a few hours, probably about 2 hours. We find out exactly everything that's going on with her, start re start doing things. We start to restore her life. She was dyslexic. She couldn't function. She couldn't exercise. She couldn't do anything she wanted. Doctors had told her she's never going to have children, anything like that. We started working with her. She slowly started healing. She went through puberty a second time in college. The dyslexia left. She started to be able to think again. She went off to college. She met Mr. Right. They fell in love. They invited us the other side of the country to come out to their wedding. And the groom comes up to me and my wife and says, "I want to thank you guys for being here. This day would not have happened if you weren't involved in my wife's life." That's pretty huge.
That is
A couple
amazing.
years down the road, they're starting a family. They've got two happy, healthy children, all of these things going on. That's typically who comes to us. This is a common scenario with us. People have been to the best specialist, no help whatsoever. We can figure it out. We've figured out ways to do this. A lot of our patients are thousands of miles away from where we live. We never see them in person. We figured out ways to test them out and I'm in the tail end of 4 decades of doing functional medicine. This is a humbling thing to me. This isn't a big braggadocio because this is all God. Was something He gave us. But in 4 decades, we've never in every patient we've shared with the most prestigious clinicians, specialists, clinics in the world. And we work with people all over the world. We beat them in diagnostics, in care, and resolution of every single case for almost 4 full decades. On the tail end of four, we're really close to 40 years. That's like impossible.
It sounds too good to be true, Brad. Like
It
what
does.
like we've got the best doctors. They've gone over and over again. They've been to everybody. They've been di like what makes you so different? Like what do you have that all these other doctors don't have that you can provide that is giving you such an amazing track record? What do you think? What do you think is that differentiator?
It's pretty simple. Um, I've got this curious mind. My son got that, and I raised him up so he could use his mind. I wasn't done that way. I had to figure out things myself. But I got this huge question of why. I'm really curious about how things function. When I got into grad school. Lord told me to quit work and go to school. And I've been working since I was 11. That's pretty hard to do for
Mm.
somebody that's just worked their whole life to quit doing that. But it was an amazing process going through, because I went through at lightning speed. It takes most people 4 to 6 years to get in grad school. I did it in 14 months. Okay, that's me. That's just me, my style, and just the way that I learn. I just flip things around and all that. And I'm just really curious about how things work. So I'm always studying how things work. And with the body, you look at two of the um, professions that create doctors, chiropractic and medical doctors. They have virtually the same identical education.
Hmm.
And I'm going through that, and we get into physiology, and it's like, okay, we finally got a science that gives us nuts and bolts about what's going on inside. And I'm just curious about that. When we go through the national boards, I could have wrote out essays on every question they had about physiology, 'cause just intrigued. That's the way my mind works. It just
Wow.
flips everything around. I have not met a handful of doctors in 40 years to study physiology. When they graduate, that book gets shelved, they throw it away. Mine's still in my bookshelf. I pull it out on a regular basis. I'm always studying. So, how things work is huge. I wrote a book, it's a few different stages, but it's called Exposing Lyme and Chronic Illness. There is, believe, 7 chapters in physiology that approach it from a different standpoint than anybody else does. It's systems flow, is how I write it, not all this compartmentalized things. And it's that understanding of the system's flow of how everything works with a unique set of diagnostics that we've developed over 40 years and perfected that give all the insight. First, we start off with diagnostic questionnaires, which gives us a story why. What's the history that brought a person to where they're at in front of us? And those are the keys on what set the stage.
Yeah.
Almost no doctor does a history anymore. And that might take me a couple hours
No, the,
between
the history
get
is really, do you have a family history of certain diseases, right? And certain ailments, but you're saying you go much deeper. Like, give me an example. Like, what are some of the things that, I mean, is
it
it the foods we eat? Are you asking about environment? Like, does our family history play into this? I know this, we don't have like all this time. Like, I can see why, Brad, you're like, every time I get on a podcast, they want me to come back, they want to talk longer. And now I'm experiencing that firsthand for myself. Actually, let me ask you this, because you talk about walking with your patients in the process. Let's talk about what that relationship looks like and how does that level of care change the outcome? Like, how connected are you throughout the process of their healing?
okay, real simple. My questionnaire is set up in groups of questions on different sims, uh, um, different organ systems and things like that.
Okay.
So I can go through it and I can tell what's going on in all these different organ systems. We got things about environmental questions and all that. So that gives me a background. A mother's health when she gets pregnant affects a minimum of 5 generations. So you got to go back
Hmm.
and look especially on maternal side as far as that goes. Paternal side is real important too. But those are the keys on what all this global interaction is, how deep that stage is, what the familial patterns are to bring it. It's not genetics, it's familiar patterns that are really what's important, because familiar patterns determine your genetic expression. So we start with that. We do our own diagnostics, which is, as I said, for 40 years, we beat every single
Yeah.
specialist clinic and every aspect in every different field of health.
Hmm.
We beat everyone for 40 years. So that's not a huge braggadocio. But when we start working with people, most people, they'll come into a doctor, they'll run a bunch of tests. They got to wait a whole bunch of time to get their
Mhm.
results, come back in 6 weeks, something like that. We'll check it out. We get all that data day one, why we're testing, It's right there what it is. We start working with people. We see them weekly for an average of a month and a half.
So
First,
when normally you're waiting for 6 weeks for a result, you've now seen them 6 times during those 6 weeks.
right. And all kinds of physiological things have changed since then. Say somebody's got Lyme disease, they're going to have a H. pylori infection. That's already gone in 6 weeks. If they got a Clostridia infection in their colon, that's 7 to 10 days. It's gone. If they got H. pi, yeah, if they got something like Epstein-Barr, that averages about 6 weeks. Get rid of. We've been clearing hepatitis in 6 weeks. Lifelong stuff. We've been clearing that stuff in 6 weeks. And, as I said, I'm not cherry picking. Somebody with Lyme disease, you're going to have Babesia or Ehrlichia or Rickettsia, Borrelia, all those infections. The bacteria ones are typically gone in 6 to 8 weeks with somebody we work with. And people have been
And they've been
treating
dealing
these
with these
things
for years, maybe decades.
oftentimes lifetimes. We've had three generations come in from transfer, placental transfer, nursing, all that, three generations and cleared them out. The whole family in 6 to 8 weeks with
Nice.
that stuff. But it's the predisposing factors that take all the time and nobody's looking at those.
Yeah.
So that's a huge issue. So yeah, you talk about walking with somebody, you get intimately involved in their life, and you can't do that with this high, mighty, arrogant, condescending attitude. You got to be vulnerable. You got to be transparent. Doctors don't do that. They just don't do that. Their egos are way, way, way too fragile, and I don't care.
And most of it seems to just be like wanting to, here's the symptoms. You've got inflammation or you're in pain. Like we're just treating the symptoms. You're getting to the root cause and eliminating the cause. Therefore, the symptoms are
They
going
go
away.
just go away.
Ah,
You
okay.
take Hashimoto's, one of the biggest things in women. It doesn't take that long to get rid of it. It goes away.
Ah.
We work with women. They're all the way up into their 80s, been on Synthroid for decades. You get them healed up, they wean off of that, their energy comes back, the rubor, their skin comes back, multiple colors, light starts to reflect off, their hair starts to grow, and when their libido comes back in their 80s, they just get giddy.
Oh, yes, yes.
And I couldn't tell you how many cases we have of that because everybody we see has depressed thyroid.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I've seen thousands of people over this 40-year time. So I,
This is why we're talking to Brad today. If he's talking to you, this is somebody you know, it's a family member. We are restoring hope and health. Okay, Brad, for someone who is listening, who is struggling or knows somebody who's, struggling with a chronic illness and has been, what would you say is the first step towards reclaiming their health? Like, what would you recommend they do immediately?
the dietary issues is huge. It's
Mm.
absolutely huge. That's what sets the stage for everything. Our food supply is really toxic. Anything that feeds off of corn, corn is an evil food. It's got two herbicides on it, atrazine, and 10 times worse than glyphosate or Roundup. And we finally figured out what Roundup does. This is a mind blower. It was introduced into the market as a drain cleaner, literally. It chelates minerals. It locks up minerals in a different form than what they are. Inside of us, it does the same thing. You might have all the minerals in you, but it puts it in a form you can't utilize them, and it shuts down all your metabolism, detox pathways, everything. Shuts down everything. So
I'm
corn is the
if
worst.
you don't have chronic illness, right? Like there's probably stuff that's inside of you that, looking at what you're putting in is probably an important step for all of us.
Yeah, clean water, clean food, anything, any corn product, anything that's fed on corn. So you're talking feedlot cattle, the whole dairy industry.
What is there anything even safe for us to eat anymore, Brad? Because I feel like, we try to do the right thing, and you're eating healthier, and then you're like, oh, but that's all soy and that's all this. And you
Soy
get
is not the
older.
problem.
Oh,
GMO's not the problem. GMO's a wagging dog to keep people off the tension of all the herbicides and pesticides it takes to keep them growing. That's what the real issue is.
Mm.
And everybody wants to hide that from people. The best place to shop is your local farmers markets. Get to know people, ask them how they feed their plants. If they're feeding their plants, they don't know what they're doing, walk away. If they're feeding the soil, they know what they're doing. That's where you want to buy your produce.
Right. All right, feeding the plants. No, don't know what they're doing. Feeding the soil. They're tied in. Okay. All right, this is very tangible. So clean water, clean food. Anything else that you want to recommend to us?
Everything affects epigenetics. I've got a book called Healing Lifestyles. It's on the link that you're gonna give us. And it's simple things you can do in your life, how to address your food supply, your water supply, other things to change your genetics. Every gene has 30,000 potential ways it can express itself. How you live determines that. Your belief systems, your relationships, how healthy your interaction is. All of these things affect epigenetics. And that book is some real keys on how to do it. So it's free. All you got to do is leave your email. He plugs it in. And that gives links to everything that we do, our podcast, our website, our book. Um,
Okay,
then that's
that is our next step. The website is the word hello dot healthfully, 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 the letter U.com. Hello dot healthfully, the letter U.com. You're going to get the book, The Healing Lifestyles. You're going to get access to all of these incredible resources. And just to be able to have access and to ask, his team all of these questions, right? I think so often we think we're the only one, and that we're alone in this journey. But you've got 4 decades of helping people and generations of families that you have been helping through all of this. You truly are a godsend. And I can see now how your spiritual beliefs, like how God is working through you to be a healer, bringing back, restoring hope, restoring health in people who have no other answer. Like they've just kind of been told to walk away and you're just going to live with this for the rest of your life. Like how depressing is that to know that there are no answers and yet you can come in a couple hours and with a really clear assessment and a really caring approach to walking your patients through healing has really been it's just really beautiful to learn about, Brad. And we're so excited to be able to spread this message and share your message. I know you are a sought after podcast guest. If you have a podcast and you're looking for an incredible guest to speak, Brad's one of our most popular guests in our network, and so you can see why. If you've got an event that, I think a virtual event that he can speak on, because you can do it from anywhere. You can impact anybody from the world. Brad, what else do we want to make sure that we cover and share with the audience today?
a couple simple things. One, people think I cherry pick all this stuff. We work with people who are, we've had 21-year-old kids spend 23 and a half hours in bed from Lyme disease. They're that sick, they can't function. People that can't talk, can't communicate because they're that sick. People that have had a difficult time walking from the bedroom to the bathroom. So I'm not cherry picking any of this stuff. All these people have seen multitudes of doctors with no help, and we get them healthy again. And I'm the only one I've heard of in healthcare that gives guarantees. We got a two-stage guarantee. First, on day one, if I can't figure out what's going on with a person, what the root causes are and how to resolve it, I don't charge them anything. We walk our different ways. I'm not going to tell them what I found, but I don't charge them either. In 40 years, no one's ever taken me up on that guarantee. Second one on top of that, when we work with somebody a 6-month program, if they're not significantly improved in infective issues and metabolic issues and can prove that they've done what I've told them to do, I'll continue to work for free until they do. No one's ever taken me up on any one of those two guarantees because that's how clearly we get people
I
better.
saw I saw something about a guarantee when this was like a little meme. He's like, you want a guarantee? I can guarantee if you don't do something different, if you don't try to change what you're doing, you're going to stay exactly where you are. There's a guarantee, right? But here's an answer, here's a hope, here's resources, here's tools. If you do the work, and this is Dave Ramsey's guarantee, if you do the work, you won't want a refund, right? If you don't do the work, you don't get a refund. So
You won't need one if you
you
do
don't,
the work.
no, you don't need one if you'll do the work, right? But here, I
Yeah.
guarantee you will stay in pain. You will stay dealing with this issue if you don't do something to make a difference and to make a change. And so here's a nothing to lose opportunity. Get started, go and follow, connect with Brad and his team at hello.healthfully, the letter u.com, hello.healthfullyu.com. Pick up a book, read that book, Healthy Lifestyles. Grab a copy for you and for somebody you know that needs these answers and just needs hope. I think that's the thing is that we've just been told that there's no hope. Like we're just going to have to suffer through and continue to suffer for the rest of our lives. And we all have family members that have been given that diagnosis, and our heart breaks for them because we don't have the answers either. And here comes the hope healer, right? Dr. Brad Montagne, right? Hello.healthfullyu.com. Brad, it's been an incredible honor to be able to interview you, hear your story. There's more, right? We know there's more.
Yeah, there's a lot
Thank you for the
more.
story. We actually probably need you to start your own show so that we can have, more Brad every single week. Brad, thank you so much. Thanks for being a part of our Need a Guest community, for doing what you're doing, for making a difference in the lives of others, and for sharing that with us here today. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, I appreciate the invite. This is always enjoyable to do this.
I know
And
it's
you
been
can
fun.
see you can this is another one of those uncanned conversations. We haven't talked about what we're going to talk about, and I've just drawn people into that kind of conversation. A lot of top podcasters that have never had organic conversations like this. We've done a lot of them.
Yeah, I mean, you can see you just kind of when you hear what you do, you're like, oh, right. It just opens up that dialogue, which is why I love podcasting. I think it does it. It's not a canned conversation, like Brad said. It wasn't a prepared, presentation. It's an organic dialogue that came in the moment, and hopefully he impacted you like he impacted me. And I know, Brad, you're impacting the world. So thanks for doing it. Thanks for being our guest. For our audience, thanks so much for hanging out with us today. If this episode impacted you, share it with somebody you know. And you can follow me at needaguest.com. If you're a podcast host and need guests, we have a great community. And if you're looking to get booked on more podcasts as an incredible guest and you've got a story just as powerful as Brad's, follow us at needaguest.com. I'm Angel Tuccy. I am your host. It has been my honor to deliver this incredible opportunity and interview with you here today. Cheers and have a beautiful day, everyone. Bye bye.